show you a bit of software that I've developed for capturing and for displaying Greek vases. It's part of a larger effort to digitize the collections in the University of Natal's various museums. Now, let me just ask the question, why study Greek vases? Well, first of all, they're absolutely awesome. And by that, I don't mean that they're just beautiful and that they adorn country homes, but they're also very useful archaeologically. And before I explain why, let me just tell you a little bit about this vase here. This is one of our star pieces in our museum. It's Dionysus between satyrs. Dionysus is the god of wine, revelry, and debauchery. I told you they're awesome. On the other side, we have some hoplites, hoplite warriors, and archers. And the hoplite warriors are typically Greek. The archers are dressed in Scythian uniform. They're from the north of Greece. And the Greek tyrant Pisistratus used to hire these guys for as mercenaries. Now, that brings me to the next issue, and that is these vases are informative. This is why they're more important in many ways on their own than other archaeological artifacts like, let's say, lamps, because they tell a story there. But we've got to understand what that story is, and we've spent a long time developing the art and science of understanding what these vases are telling us. But to do that, we really need to put in a lot of effort to map out the various different symbols that these vases actually have and understand what they mean. The second thing is that they are useful for dating, and that needs a little bit of explanation. These vases were all made by different artists. They were painted by different artists, and if we know the identity of the artist who made a vase, we can date it. An artist only works for about 30 years. And that gives us much more accurate dating than carbon dating or thermoluminescence, which are the other techniques that we use to date artifacts. And so understanding the different painters and understanding their relationship to each other is also very, very important for understanding the science. But good science needs good data, and unfortunately that's not what we have. And this is why we have programs like VaseViewer. Black and white photographs are the standards that archaeologists use today to analyze these vases. And it's just not good enough for many reasons. While we have a great online database of about 100,000 vases, they are using photographs of poor quality. Some of them are 100 years old. Some of them are reasonable quality, the more recent ones, but they're still two-dimensional photographs. They don't reveal a lot of details that archaeologists may be interested in. Many of them are watermarked, so you can't actually use them, and we think it would be much better to use other alternatives to photographs. Now, there are many alternatives. There's QTVR. Sorry, I shouldn't be mentioning brand names. They're object movies, and they're 3D scanners, but these are often very expensive. They require powerful hardware, and they're time-consuming to capture. VaseViewer is very easy to use it to capture vases, and I think it's quite easy to use the viewer software. There are two different components to this. There's the designer, which is where you actually capture the vase and document it, and there's the viewer, which will allow end users to actually see the vases that you've captured. I'll only be showing you the viewer at the moment. Now, here is the same vase that we've got, but in VaseViewer, you can see from this photograph that the figures at the end, okay, are very difficult, are not very, very clear. Similarly, on the other side of the vase, the two satyrs, that guy on the right, this guy on the left, you can't see them very clearly. The trick is to be able to rotate the vase in such a way that the guy you're interested in is at the center of your view. VaseViewer allows you to do that. First of all, it allows you to rotate the vase to any position. So you can see the satyr over there. You can see Ariadne, Dionysus, and his companion, the other satyr. On the other side, you can see the two archers, the hoplites in the middle with their beautiful shield designs, the archer with his, the other hoplite, and the other archer with his beautiful pajamas. Now, the thing is, there are details here that you actually can't see. You can't see many of the smaller details in this vase, even though you can rotate it to any position that you want. And VaseViewer has a way of dealing with that as well. Let me just show you, for example, that guy's head. You can't see any of the details of his eyes, for example, because the photograph isn't clear enough. You can't see that satyr, and he's got such a beautiful bushy beard, but you can't actually see it in this particular image. Also, other details are very useful when you're trying to determine which painter painted what, such as those little incisions that are used to indicate the musculature of that satyr. So I've built in a particular way of looking at close-up images in VaseViewer. Holding down F1, for example, gives you a hotspot mode. Now, here you can see that areas around various features, the features I've spoken about, are slightly brighter than the rest of the vase. These areas are hot. Clicking on them will bring up a close-up and a written description. So, for example, the archer that I was talking about, there you can see in clear detail incisions that make up his face, and a little bit of a blurb about him. If you get tired holding down F1, you can actually click on the hotspot button over there, and that does exactly the same thing. We can move this guy around and look at the satyr's head. Notice I said his beautiful bushy beard. Well, you can see that in much clearer detail now, and I've got a little bit of a blurb there about the satyr. Also, we've got Ariadne, and we've got Dionysus over there. And even something totally idiosyncratic. I mean, I'm obsessed with the way painters render their own knees, but you need close-ups to understand that. And we've got a close-up of the knee of the satyr over there. Okay, on the next side, that's the shield. Notice the lion over there. You could hardly see it was a lion, but you can see it in more detail on the close-up that it is. And even the guy's knees there, those legs, reveal the same kind of knee that was on the other side. And this is very interesting to people like me. Software like this allows you to actually view all of these details on the surface of a vase, something that you can't do with normal photographs. Now, I've got another mode that I've added, holding down F2 instead. That is for people who don't actually know much about vases in the first place, and this actually labels the different areas on a vase that might have been defined before. For example, you've got squares surrounding the relevant features, the most important features in the vase. The archer, the satyr, Dionysus, the knees. These are labeled, and the labels follow the vase as it turns around. You do this by holding down F2, but if you get bored of that, you can just click on Annotate, and that's the annotation mode that reveals these annotations so you can know what it is that you're actually clicking on, so you can decide what you want to look at. Now, the truth, for example, you can click on the satyr, and it's labeled satyr there. But the truth is that I, as the art historian, can't know what everybody is going to be interested in. So, for example, there's, let me just it's going into normal mode first. There are a number of areas in the vase that reveal details that other art historians might be interested in. That, the decoration just below the neck, that's very important to some people. In this case, it's what we call a lotus and palmette festoon, but I haven't got a close-up of it. So what I've done is I've added to this the ability for a person to choose an area, click on it, and inform me that they'd like more information about it. In this case, you have to click on comment at the bottom, and then click on the area that you'd like to comment. Write a comment in there. Unfortunately, I will be changing the color of that font, so don't worry about that. There, I'm just writing to myself, asking to please provide a picture and some documentation on the lotus and palmette on that vase. I can't get through the university's firewall, so I haven't. This won't be actually sending it to me, but essentially, clicking on that sends the person who's designed the vase an email with the coordinates that you've clicked on and the actual request. We're thinking about adding various other functions to this, but I'll talk about those a little bit later. We will be adding, for example, hopefully the ability for people to comment on each other's comments. Anyway, I've mentioned that this was easy to use, so let me now explain what I mean by this. I've only showed you the viewer, but what is required for the designer to do this? Well, essentially, all you need is a camera. In this case, the first component you need is a camera. In this case, it's a PixelLink. I've used a PixelLink 1.3 megapixel camera. It's by today's standard, it's not particularly high resolution. You'll get a much better results if you were to use, for example, an HD camera. Okay, something that's easily available at the consumer level. So the images that you saw, for example, were a little bit grainy. On an HD camera, it would be a lot better than that. Also, a turntable that turns slowly. Now, I had a special turntable made. It wasn't expensive. It was 5,000 Rand, but you can actually buy these objects elsewhere. But if you think about it, it's 500,000 Rand to get the 3D annotated images. It costs you about 400,000 Rand to get a handheld 3D scanner. So, in fact, this is very cheap. It's also easy to use, and this is really the key. At least I think it's easy to use. You rotate the vase and you photograph it with one camera, and the computer does the rest. The timeline, look, the Reader software is going to be available in July 2010. It's almost finished. There's various little tweaks that need to be done to improve it. Email functionality, the ability to load updates automatically, and also I'm going to be working a little bit on the visuals. That is almost complete, so that will be available in July 2010, and that will really be a beta release. The viewer, the designer, on the other hand, the designer software, which allows you to capture the vases and actually document them and annotate them, that will only be available in 2010. There I've got a lot more work that I still need to do. For example, the 3D model that it estimates from the video of the vase turning around is being done in MATLAB, whereas the front end has been done in C++, and I need to integrate these into a single package. I need to increase the range of conditions under which it will actually work properly. I've got it working under very difficult conditions at the moment, but ideally, we want it to work even when we have a moving background, when it's captured against a moving background. And finally, we want to be able to capture these videos and process them even when using a manual turntable that doesn't turn at a fixed speed. Finally, we're open to new ideas. So that means that if you have anything to add, if you have anything to suggest to me about how functions do you think would be interesting in software like this, please email me. You can find my details on the TEDxUKZN site, and you can Google me. My name's Adrian Ryan, and it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.